Everybody, welcome back to Divulgence and the Truth Desk. We're doing another swapcast today, guys. So you guys have probably noticed that we've done a few episodes where we're trying to do kind of a news segment show. I think we've done at least 3 of them, maybe 4 over the last 2 months or so. So we've decided that we're going to do them weekly now. We're still coming up with the format and the production and how we're going to work everything. But as of right now, we've decided we're going to do every Thursday in some give or take sometime around 6 or 7 p.m. Eastern, I'd say. But it will be every Thursday. And essentially, it will be kind of kicking around news items as well as updating stories and situations that we kind of will track over time, and just kind of giving it a bit of a deep dive criticism or thought process, or maybe sometimes giving it a bit of a conspiratorial spin to it, or looking through that lens, because some people think it's kooky. It's this kind of thing happens, these psyops, these false flags, these assassinations, and so on and so on. So it's I think it's just smart to at least put that lens on sometimes. But yeah, it's great to see you guys again. And Adam, it's great to see you again, my friend. How are you doing, my friend?
Great to see you, Jordan. Just what you're saying is, I often when read the news, sometimes something just feels a little off, and it makes me ask questions. And I think this would be a good place for us to all come and ask some questions and maybe try and figure out what's going on behind the scenes with some of these news stories. Try and figure out what's really going on? Who's really pulling the strings back there? The man behind the curtain for all of you Wizard of Oz fans out there.
Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly. Um, a lot of the things that I'm sure we'll get in today, they're, whether it's the war or the Kirk trial, the Kirk killing trial of Tyler Robinson, or the Tates extradition, or we'll start with JD Vance, whatever. There's always something more going on with these people and these institutions and these events. You just got to know where to find the connections, and kind of like we were saying before, just you got to stay true to yourself and keep your mind open. And yeah, don't take anyone's word for it, especially if it's coming from, like, mainstream legacy kind of media, or if it's some obscure post or something. You always got to do your own research, right?
Absolutely. It's your duty in a democracy to stay informed and do your own research because a democracy is technically run by the people. I know that's not how it always comes out, but technically it's supposed to be run by the people, run by an informed populace. One of the biggest arguments against democracy historically was always that people were too dumb to elect people. People were uninformed. People were, we had to have this upper echelon of society making decisions. And in the information age, I think that's ridiculous. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I think I, it's interesting. I don't know if how much the people in the past expected this drive in technology and information exchange, to the point where we can be researching all this stuff, and sharing it. So I don't know if they expected it. So you don't know how well they covered up their tracks, if that's what they were trying to do. So you got to always look back, look forward, make the connections. But yeah, I totally agree, Adam.
I believe if
uh,
they could take the internet back, they would. Because they've totally lost
Absolutely.
control of the narrative. They've lost
Absolutely.
control of, I mean, if you think about it in the 60s, they could just come out and say, like, okay, JFK was killed by Lee Harvey Oswald. That's all there is to it. And people just kind of went with it. And today they wouldn't be able to. I mean, just look at the Kirk trial. Like, people, as soon as Charlie Kirk, like, his body wasn't even cold, and people were already not believing that Tyler Robinson was the shooter before a lot of information came out. And now that more information's come out, it's become, in my opinion, more and more apparent. But
Well, we will. I agree. We'll definitely get into that today as well because it's something that we've wanted to put out there for a while. So today we will do a little bit of a timeline of the hearing of the procedure that did take place with Tyler Robinson, and we'll bounce back a few other ideas and stuff. But I guess we will start with let's start with JD Vance. So obviously, a lot of people know that he made the Joe Rogan appearance,
Terrible,
which
absolutely terrible appearance.
it was rough. It was
It
rough,
was
man.
rough.
He he seemed to be he definitely seems to be playing his cards for the election.
Oh
He
yeah,
definitely seems to want to put himself in a position where, when the time comes, he can say, "Well, I was totally against the war," and I think he's putting himself in a position where, when the time comes, he can say, "Well, I'm the guy against that." He might go as far to say he's against Israel, but at least he'll say, I'm not the guy bowing to Israel, so to speak. I'm not giving them as much leeway as other people are, as much praise as other people are. I mean, those photos, when you go and touch the wall and you make such a dramatic photo like he did, it's kind of hard to backtrack on that kind of thing. Or you just lose all credibility in general, right? Um, but I know that you might not agree with this, but I don't think, although it's a huge platform and it's great, that I think he was very transparent unintentionally. And it's a big platform for people to maybe see under the veil. But I don't think that Joe is necessarily the interviewer we need to be interviewing these kind of people. It's great that he brings these people on for this kind of platform, but he really lets them wiggle away. He really lets them just like he's done this with the Charlie Kirk killing too, where he says, "Oh, I'm such a conspiracy theorist, and I love diving down these rabbit holes, and like my wife even thinks I'm whacked out, and everyone in the White House knows I'm the conspiracy theory guy, and I know every." And he said this many times. He said, I could talk to you about this for hours. We can do like 4 or 5 episodes on this kind of thing. But then he avoids the topic. Like when he's talking about Epstein, like, oh, I've done every Epstein conspiracy theory. I've gone over everything, but he doesn't want to actually talk about any of it. It's very disingenuous.
are
Very
you talking about
disingenuous.
JD Vance
I
saying that?
am. I am.
Yeah, so I will say Rogan seems to, on these high profile people, he does kind of give them a soft interview. Um, he was pretty soft on Cash Patel. This JD Vance interview that just came out was probably my least favorite Rogan episode I've ever seen, mainly because he let JD Vance sit there and just be like, "Look, man, like you said, I've been down every Epstein rabbit hole, and we're never gonna know the truth, and this and that." It's like, buddy, you're the vice president of the United States. You're sitting there talking like you're just some schmuck, some guy that works a construction job, and you're just hanging out at a bar, and you're like, "Yep, I'm such a conspiracy guy." It's like you're in a real position to actually do something about this. You're in a real position to actually ask these questions. Why was he given such a sweetheart deal in 2008? Why was Zorro Ranch never raided? Why did it take 5 weeks to raid his island? And it's interesting too because there was an article that came out, I believe Washington Post or New York Times. It was very famous just recently, where they detail a meeting in the Trump White House, and they basically just cavalierly talk about JD Vance going on Joe Rogan to smooth over the Epstein saga. And that's essentially what we saw. Rogan never addressed that, by the way. Rogan never came out and said why was Trump and Todd Blanche and JD Vance all talking about making an appearance on Joe Rogan. They first said Todd Blanche should go on Rogan. They actually called Rogan, according to this article, and Rogan said, "I won't have Blanche on, but I'll have JD Vance on." So, and
Oh,
and no one's ever addressed that. They haven't come out and said it was fake. They haven't come out and said provided any context. It's just out there. So I think that's a little odd. And while I am a fan of Joe Rogan, I didn't much care for the interview. I didn't much care for his glossing over of Vance, and it's kind of made me feel a little differently. I'll say that. And JD Vance is clearly being groomed to be the front runner Republican candidate. Not that Republicans are probably going to win the next presidential race. I think it's maybe we're being set up to, similar to how Obama got a pretty easy shoe in, in 2008 after 8 years of Bush. I mean, you could have
Sure.
any Democrat would have won in 2008. But I think that's probably what we're seeing here. The Democrats pretty much just have a shoe in, I think, for 2028. But whoever it is, they'll go up against JD Vance, it sounds like. Mr.
Yeah.
Palantir. Palantir
Yeah.
Vance.
Palantir Vance, Mr. Peter Thiel, Mr.
He
Lies
was
about his
funded. He was
church.
funded by Peter. Peter Thiel donated to him when he was like a college student. This organization that Peter Thiel's involved in curates young politicians and people that are politically active, and it's kind of how JD Vance got his political start, was with the backing of a Peter Thiel linked institution. So interesting on that.
Huh. That's how Vance got his start.
I believe so. Yes,
Okay.
there's Nick Fuentes has actually brought that up, and it's true. You can
You're
you can
right.
look
Yeah.
it up here. I can fact check it real quick, but yeah. So JD Vance he's very politically savvy. He's a good politician. He knows what to say, but shady background.
Agreed. I mean, he's. I'll pull up an article to show. A lot of people are talking about. I mean, I get the impression that he's already running, obviously, right? Like he's got this weight loss. He's put out that book, which he lied, like we spoke about. He lied about the cover, the church that he put on the cover, and he talks about it being his church. They don't know him. They've never seen him, and like you'd think, like, oh, it's the vice president. Like, you'd think like maybe they'd cover for him. No, they don't know him, man. Like he's not part of that, and he's trying to input himself into something that's just not even real. So that's crazy, but he has demonstrated himself to be a player of the game, uh as we've spoken about, and as you've mentioned, he has a shady background.
Here it
Shady.
is, real quick. If you can, Peter Thiel's been a major financial and professional backer of JD Vance in both business and politics. Thiel and Vance's relationship began in 2011 when Vance heard Thiel speak and later described it as a pivotal moment. Vance went on to work at Mithril Capital, a Thiel co-founded venture firm with a Lord of the Rings style name similar to Palantir, as a principal partner around 2015-2017. Thiel has been described as a mentor to Vance. So yes, he was basically just kind of plucked when he was a student at Yale Law to be a up and coming politician by
Hmm.
Peter Thiel.
There you
So
go. There you go,
interesting
man.
there.
And I mean, it seems Trump is putting his weight behind him now. It used to kind of be up in the air between JD Vance and Marco Rubio, but he seems to be
Hmm.
putting his weight behind Vance. And I'm just getting the impression now, like I used to think, oh, okay, Rubio's a hard worker, and he's a brown noser, and he's doing what he needs to do so he can run. I don't know, man. Like, do you think he's even going to run? Like when he wore those shoes that Trump gave him, and they were like 15 sizes too 12, maybe 12 sizes too big, and then it hit the media, and then he still wore them. I
Yeah.
mean, I think he's just a professional brown noser. I don't think he's fit for president. I think he's realized, maybe he's even realized, like, I know my value is somewhere around these levels.
Rubio's definitely a professional ass kisser. The shoes thing was, Trump was going around the room and he said, allegedly, Trump says, you can tell a lot about a man by his shoe size, and I can tell people's shoe size right away. And he's like, "Oh, you're probably a size 10." And they're like, "Yes, Mr. President, yes." They get to Rubio. It says, "Rubio, you're probably a size, 11 or 12." And Rubio's probably like a size 8. And Rubio just says, "Yes, sir." And so they order these gigantic clown shoes for him. They're probably making fun of him all the time. When he leaves the room, Trump's probably like, "Did you see how dumb he looked in those huge clown shoes?" And, you
He's
know,
still wearing them. What
yeah,
a
but
fucking
it just
idiot.
shows you what he's also very likely a cocaine user. I've seen
Okay.
video clips of him, Rubio getting up on stage being like, pretty amped up, pretty pepped up. So, yeah, and I did see an article recently where Rubio said he wouldn't run if JD Vance was going to run. So it sounds like JD Vance is going to be the front runner in 2028. So whoever the Democrats put up. I don't know why they always suggest Gavin Newsom. I don't feel like Gavin Newsom is really that popular. Um,
He's just the shell. He's the shell of a politician. He's got the looks, he's got the greasy background, he's a scumbag, but I don't know, man. Yeah, I just don't I don't see it either, to be quite honest with you.
he'd be an American Justin Trudeau or
Yeah,
Emmanuel Macron.
for the most
He'd be
part.
one of
Yep.
these World Economic Forum backed politicians, one of these people that just, same person, different country. I personally think, for the Democrats, maybe AOC, while I am a libertarian, hence the flags back there, maybe let's get a hot chick on the ticket. Maybe that was the Democrats' problem with Kamala Harris. She wasn't hot enough. AOC, she's pretty easy on the eyes. I wouldn't mind seeing State of the Unions and press conferences with her in them.
I mean, if we're talking in comparison to Kamala Harris, then absolutely. But if we're just talking in general,
Who would you take? Who would you take? Would you take JD Vance or AOC?
you know what, man? It's a really tough choice, and I don't envy you guys for having to make it because JD Vance is more of the same and a continuance of just, I think, probably really bad stuff. You might lose the obscenity of Trump and the transparency where Trump just does things and he just blabs it out and you might lose that kind of thing. So you might get some candor and decorum back, but let's not forget what we were just talking about, man. Who's he funded by? Who's he connected to? And he's, so that's a scary thought. On the other hand, we're letting this little child looking pipsqueak with not much real experience take the helm. She will do so much damage. I always talk about how retribution tours, and Trump has gone on many, and it's almost been his whole presidencies have just been a continued tour, retribution tour and redemption tour, and well, not redemption, sorry. And I think anyone, but especially someone like maybe like Gavin Newsom or an AOC who can't keep her fucking mouth shut, will go so far, will swing the pendulum so far in the other way that uh, then you'll see the Democrats hating the Democrats more, and you'll see another like mega civil war or whatever. Um, I don't know if there's a good. I mean, if I were to choose, man, I guess I would choose AOC, maybe. Um, if anything, just to try to disrupt and slow down some of the chaos that the Republicans have been doing over the last few years. But I mean, yeah, there's always another side to that coin. So it's very tough, man. It's very tough.
Yeah.
What about you? What about you?
Dude, I don't think it matters anymore. It's a uniparty. It's both of them. They're both eating kids. They're both fucking the taxpayers. You might get slightly different social policy. with someone like an AOC or whoever the Democrats select, maybe you'll get a reversal of some of these transgender bathroom deals or whatever. But like at the end of the day, it's not going to matter. We're still going to have inflation. We're still going to have government spending through the roof. We're still going to have the same foreign policy and needless foreign wars. I mean, Jesus Christ, like Trump campaigned on no more foreign wars. And here we are. The Iran war just restarted, which I'm sure we'll get into later. But, it literally doesn't matter who you vote for anymore. I personally vote libertarian when I do go to the polls. And, everyone says, oh, you're voting third party. You're throwing your vote away. It's like, well, not really. I mean, so many people are disenfranchised with the current political system, but yet there's no appetite for a third party, which, and some libertarian candidates are a bit out there and they say some weird things. I personally think that they do that on purpose. I think the Uniparty tries to like infiltrate the libertarians and get these wackadoos up so that people don't vote for them. Because, really, if people looked at it, a lot of people vote Republican because they want small government or limited government spending. That's all libertarians, ever talk about, limiting the size of government. And to actually suggest cutting spending of the government is not popular because people are making a lot of money off of fraud and waste and all these government programs. You talk about slashing the federal budget, you're talking about firing people. You're talking about people not having jobs. You're talking about money going to these congressional districts. I mean, it's not popular with anybody. But we're going to have to do something. And if we don't, eventually we're going to run out of money. We're going to get rampant inflation. And then we're going to get austerity measures, which will be budget cuts and tax hikes. It'll be the exact whenever the economy's doing bad, those are the two things that you don't need: reduce government spending and higher taxes. And so the economy's going to slow down, and then we're going to have to slow it down even more with austerity. So that's, maybe 20, 40, 50 years away, but it's going to suck. But yeah, I think it doesn't matter. Vote Democrat, vote Republican. It's about like Visa or MasterCard, Coke or Pepsi. It's going to, you know. It would be nice to get a little, like you said, decorum back because Trump is really crude and it's kind of been sad. At first he was kind of funny and people liked him because he was kind of like a walking meme. But
Yeah.
I think that's kind of gone away, and it's like I almost miss when politicians had a little bit more polish to them. You know, the Iran war I feel like really turned a lot of people off to Trump. At least me. I'm not really a fan of this because we're seeing a spike in oil prices. A lot of fertilizer flows through the Strait of Hormuz, and that fertilizer, a year from now, we're going to see corn prices go up, and that's going to affect cattle feed, and that's beef prices. I mean, it's going to have this huge trickle down effect that we don't see yet. And oil prices are being artificially kept down by the U.S. tapping into its strategic petroleum reserves. China's been tapping into its strategic petroleum reserves. So we haven't really gotten the full effect of it yet, and it's still going on. So it's a big shit sandwich, and we're all gonna have to take a bite. Even you, my Canadian friend. You guys are
Yeah.
gonna deal with the fallout from our shitty president.
Yeah, you got that right, man. You got that right. Yeah. We're already I mean, we feel it sometimes already, we get punished for things like wildfires and you know, it, some country seems to always get the brunt of his bullshit, and we seem to get it a little more than others. So so let's move on. Unless you got anything else on that you want to
Nope.
mention on Vance. All right. I just thought couple criminal stories, couple crime stories that we'll brush through real quick.
Big fan
So
of crime over here.
yeah. So we got a Secret Service agent who was charged with two others in a near fatal fraternity hazing. A college fraternity member was paddled so severely
Good
during
Lord.
the hazing rituals that he suffered kidney damage and nearly died.
What a weird thing. What's up with fraternities paddling initiates? I was never in a fraternity. I don't understand it. I think it's a gay thing, honestly.
I was just gonna say fraternities seem so gay, dude.
Yeah.
Like, the premise is like join a brotherhood so you can be cool and bang hot chicks, but it's like you get there and it's like pull your pants down so we can paddle you and do a circle jerk. Like, I don't
You
know,
know,
man.
well, and it's like, so you do see, so homosexuality exists in other animals besides humans. It exists in like giraffes and lions, and it's basically a way for like the super like alpha macho members of the species to like dominate or put in place the weaker ones. I mean, just imagine being a lion, being born the king of the jungle, but you're like 5% smaller than the rest of the lions, so you get fucked in the ass every now and then. And like you're trying to eat a gazelle and they're like shit talking you while they're getting eat, like, yeah, well, at least I didn't get fucked in the ass, you know.
Yeah,
I think
man.
I think that's kind of what that is, that fraternity thing, because I mean I've never had the desire to paddle another man. I don't know about you, but it's just weird to me. And this was a Secret Service agent who is in his late 20s that did it to a, I would imagine, 18 or 19-year-old boy. So just more, and the Secret Service has always been kind of a bro club. I think
A really
2012.
messed up bro club. Yeah.
Yeah, well, so 2012 they got caught down in Colombia. They had like 20 hookers and some blow at this motel. And the Secret Service is kind of one of those things, like depending on who you get attached to, like imagine being a Secret Service agent attached to Bill Clinton. Like they were
Oh,
literally flying on Epstein's planes. If you look at the flight logs, Bill Clinton's Secret Service would go with him,
yeah.
and they would fly on the Lolita Express. And I mean, so you can get to Hunter Biden. Could you imagine being a Secret Service
Oh,
agent attached to Hunter Biden, going to staying at
dude.
Motel Sixes, smoking crack with him?
For like, I mean, it depends on who you are, though, right? Like, if you're a scumbag too, that'd be a great job. But if you're like a professional, decent person, non-drug user, or non-crack smoker, I mean, I'm sure it was just a nightmare. Just a nightmare,
I think
you
it's one of
know?
those things where it's like you kind of have to be dirty to get in. Like you kind of like some of those, to be like Bill Clinton's Secret Service
For
guy.
those
You
specific
know,
roles, I think
yeah.
they're definitely chosen. There's definitely some interesting criteria going on
Mhm.
there. I would love to like connect with someone that can take us down that rabbit hole into that kind of lore, because that would be so interesting. You know, like what the criteria is to be trusted in certain positions. Uh, you know,
Inside the bro culture of the Secret Service, brought to
right?
you by Divulgence Podcast. Yeah, that'd be
Damn.
good, man. That'd be good. No, there definitely is a bit of a toxic culture within the Secret Service. Curated creeps, dirty old shinobi. Hey, good to see you, buddy. Definitely curated creeps. I would agree. There's no Boy Scouts going on the Lolita Express of Jeffrey Epstein's. I bet there's a pervert vetting process for that. There's a, you got to
Yeah.
be pretty high on the scumbag meter. They don't want anyone that's going to be testifying to Congress later on. So,
Exactly. And it's interesting just how many fumbles and mishaps and just crazy stories like the Columbia story you mentioned that the Secret Service has had, right?
mm,
Um, I mean, obviously Kennedy, but um,
yes.
you can kind of brush that off if it's if we're looking at it from the point of view that it was intended. So, um, but
Well, they
yeah,
failed to protect Trump and Butler,
Trump, Trump as well.
you know.
On a couple occasions, there's some sketchiness going on there, and there's many. I had a book, and I think I lost it. I lost a whole bunch of books in a move, but I started it, and it was interesting, and they were interviewing different Secret Service agents and just talking about their details and stuff. So I should look for that, or we should look into doing some kind of show like that. Maybe track down an author or a former agent or something that is
Yeah.
willing to speak. That'd be cool.
Well, the Butler thing, those Secret Service agents that failed to protect him, failed to secure the rooftop, failed, multiple different ways they failed in Butler. I mean, if you look at that roof, it was about this steep, and they said it was too steep to position agents on. The public out there. There's videos of the public saying there's somebody on the roof, and that happened 120 to 90 seconds before the first shot rang out. And none of those Secret Service agents were ever fired or faced any disciplinary action. They were mostly promoted.
Right.
So and that's another thing people say about Trump too is it might be a sword of Damocles type situation, which the sword of Damocles is an old tale about a king. Somebody wants to be king. He sees the throne. It looks really nice. And when he finally becomes king and sits on the throne, he looks up and there is a sword dangling from a rope just over the throne, but you can't see it unless you're sitting on the throne. There was also some other security failures around Trump. There was, of course, the guy that tried to assassinate him with an SKS pattern rifle, a 1950s Soviet-made rifle, a guy that had recruited soldiers to the Ukrainian war front. There
Was
was a
that the, sorry to
situation
interrupt, was that the one on that wasn't the one on the golf course, was it?
that was the golf
That
course,
was
yeah.
the one on the golf course.
hmm
Okay.
And then there was a thing. He showed up to a restaurant unannounced. It was supposed to be a surprise visit. And there was a table of women, like this group called Pink, and they all stood up and started yelling at him.
Yeah.
So while it was harmless, it was still somehow this
It's
group
still a
found
breach.
out where he was going to be. They knew his itinerary. So it's basically them telling Trump, we can get to you. You're not safe. Like so that's another thing people say, why all the backtracking. Maybe he's been told, hey man, play ball or else, you're going the way of Kennedy. You know, we don't need a 1961 Chevy Impala convertible to take you out. We can take you out in multiple ways. So,
Yeah, for sure, man. Agreed. You never know. You
oh
never
yeah,
know.
there it is. There
So,
it is. This was a huge security breach. Like nobody, this wasn't really that well reported, but I mean, this was a big deal. These people found out where the president was going to be on this unexpected stop, you know?
yeah, they're yelling about Palestine and stuff. I
Gosh,
remember that. Yeah.
bunch of loud liberal women. I'll bet they're just a joy to be around.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure they had quite the conversation with a glass of wine before Trump showed up.
Oh
They were
yeah. I'll
probably.
bet they've got some opinions on toxic masculinity that they talk to you
Oh,
about
for
for a few
sure.
hours
For sure, we
and
should
and
have them on.
systemic racism.
Oh, jeez, man, crazy, crazy. Um, all right, let's keep moving. So final, I think we'll end the crime stuff now. I got one final crime one I want to get into. I had another one that we did speak about, but we'll save it for next time. I think we should dive a bit more into it before we put it on the show. So I want to talk about Sonia Exelby, British musician,
Oh, what a crazy story.
paid a man to kill her.
Mm.
So the murder of Sonia Exelby is one of the most disturbing criminal cases in recent years because it sits at the intersection of mental illness, online exploitation, BDSM fetish communities, and criminal law. While early headlines suggested that she had paid someone to kill her, investigators later alleged that the reality was far more complex, that she was an extremely vulnerable woman who ultimately withdrew her consent and was murdered anyways. Sonia Exelby was a 32-year-old music teacher from Southsea, Portsmouth, England. Friends and family describe her as kind and gentle, extremely talented musically, passionate about animals. She was vegan, apparently, compassionate towards others, someone who had struggled with serious mental health issues for years. And something they don't mention, obviously, she had some more niche sexual interests.
Well, obviously.
Yeah. Her family had consistently emphasized that she should be remembered for her kindness, for her life and kindness rather than only the circumstances of her death.
Hey, hang on a second.
So,
Look in the background of this picture. You see where it says "my ass" and there's a bunch of kiss
yeah,
prints. Oh my goodness.
yeah, interesting. Yeah,
She's a bit freaky. It looks like.
she's sassy, man. She's sassy. So, according to investigators, Sonia had been communicating online for roughly 2 years with a Florida man named Dwayne Hall. Hall allegedly used the online name Alpha Sadist. The two met through an extreme fetish BDSM website. Police believe their conversations eventually included bondage, domination, suicide, murder fantasies, Sonia's depression, and her desire to die. Hall later admitted that these subjects had been discussed during his police interviews. In October of 2025, she purchased a ticket to Florida and flew from England, and was met at the airport by Hall and stayed with him at an Airbnb, which is interesting. They didn't. I wonder why they.
So he was
He.
married. He had a family. The
Uh,
guy.
I was gonna say that must be. Yeah. So there you go. So that's why they stayed at an Airbnb. So later evidence suggested the situation changed dramatically after she arrived. Um, Investigators discovered Hall's phone, Sonia's computer, their Discord messages, text messages, financial records, um, a huge treasure trove of digital data. Um, the one of the biggest discoveries were the Discord messages Sonia sent to her friend. Those messages painted a very different picture than the one Hall tried to present. According to the affidavit, Sonia wrote that Hall was taking away her phone. She felt trapped, that she could not leave, and she was regretting what was happening. Which, I mean,
So there was
yeah,
also
like
a gun. Like he had a gun there and he said if you want to leave you have to shoot me. So this was a very weird situation. I mean, clearly both of them are, mentally disturbed. It's a really weird case, it reminds me of a case in Germany where this guy, let's see what his name is here. 2001, a guy named Armin Mewis, uh, another guy basically agreed to let him kill and cannibalize him. And originally he wasn't prosecuted, and eventually he did spend some time in jail and was eventually let out. But, this kind of centers too around the right to die debate, assisted suicide, which you guys, up in Canada, obviously you have the MAIDS program there. How prevalent is that MAIDS program? Is that a big thing or?
uh, I'd say not at this point. Um, Obviously, it's been getting more traction, so it could be in the phase of growing, but every time a prominent case comes, it really amplifies. So it might seem like more prevalent, but I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say so.
Hmm.
No.
Because there's been some perfectly healthy people that have opted for it. That have just
Yes,
been
yeah.
in, it's really sad. And we should just say too that, of course we don't support anything like this, and there are resources available if you are thinking about, if you're struggling, there's people you can reach out to. There's lots of services. Mental health services have gotten a lot better over the last, I would say maybe 15, 16 years than they once were. But pretty tragic story, and just very interesting too. Um, Maybe kind of a symptom of modern life. You didn't see these kinds of things,
No, it's
pre
very
World War
new.
II.
That's a new
Yeah.
thing.
Serial killers as well. I mean, there are historical serial killers, but the phenomenon really increased after World War II. Both parents working, modern life, modern stress, and really serial killers had a heyday in this country, 70s, 80s, 90s, and they've tapered off mainly because of technology. They get caught the first time, or it's just harder for them to commit crimes, forensics and cell phones and stuff. But like these people are still out there. I had a friend who ran a computer shop, and he was looking for a driver in this guy's computer, and he was just kind of clicking around random folders, and he found all this stuff this guy had wrote. He was like basically stalking women. He was stalking this woman at a gas station, talking about how he wanted to do all this stuff to her, and he turned the guy into the police, and the guy basically got like a few years probation. But like these people are out there that have
Hmm,
these dark fantasies. It's just the criminal justice technology that keeps them at bay. So
crazy. Well,
unless you're
that
super
was
rich, then you can just fly to Epstein Island and it's all good.
yeah, fair enough, man. Or whatever other island might be out
Yeah.
there, right?
I'm sure another one's opened up. Richard Branson's got an island down there. He's never
Yeah,
brought up in the Epstein discussion, but Richard Branson was, visited there. There's pictures of him hanging out with teenage girls
I
on the
know.
island. He's
Crazy.
one that doesn't get a lot of criticism for some reason.
I mean, I don't think anyone gets enough, like for the most part, no one seems to be getting enough criticism,
Oh
except
yeah.
for a
Well,
couple
Howard Lutnick still has a job,
yeah,
Secretary
couple
of Commerce.
individuals are getting investigated and stuff and fired and whatnot. But yeah, like especially the more prominent ones, nothing's going on there.
There's been zero prosecutions in the U.S. People have had to resign or they've been fired, but criminally, there's been no prosecutions in the U.S. Obviously, Prince Andrew got arrested. There's been a Norwegian princess or something. She had to, got stripped of her royal title, but in the U.S., there's been nothing. Which, as I've, documented extensively, we've had lots of conversations about this. The evidence was intentionally not collected, so there's really not that much hard evidence available because, the FBI, since its inception, has been a very corrupt agency.
Yeah,
And Cash
exactly.
Patel continues that legacy with his big old bug eyes.
Yeah, yeah, man. And his drinking habits
Yeah.
and his fucking girlfriend is yeah, his habits are just yeah. All these people, they're just it's funny that he wrote a book called like Political Gangsters or whatever, and he's literally the same thing, man. He's such a fucking hypocrite. It's actually it's disgusting, man. It
Oh,
it,
yeah. He
it
flies
really is.
around on the FBI private plane that he's supposed to be using for work. He flies around on it for vacation. He followed, he's a huge hockey fan, and he was in the locker room of the U.S. Men's hockey team,
Yeah.
shooting champagne and
Did
chugging
not need to
beers.
be
And
there. And first of
yeah.
all, he did not need to be there. Second of all, he did not need to be seen making such a fool of himself. Okay. The players there, they won the game. They won the game. Um, they won the medal. They're there celebrating, okay? He's just there to get drunk and party and make more of a name for himself. So there's no need for that.
I think the
Um,
important lesson here is that America is the superior hockey team of all
so we're
nations.
so we're gonna move on. We got a entertainment story. Uh, Diddy or Puff Daddy or Papa Diddy Puff or whatever you call it. Diddy was recently in a prison brawl that put him in solitary confinement. Despite this, though, his release date has been moved up again to January 24th, 2028. With regards to his other cases, one of his other case, U.S. District Judge Anne Huang, which is a great name,
Mm.
has thrown out all the claims against pop singer Cassandra Cassie Ventura. Ventura fine from a $20 million lawsuit against a former male escort, although the judge is allowing the main accusations against Sean Diddy Combs to survive. So he might be, he's having a little bit of trouble in jail. He might be getting out in a little over a year or
What's
less than a
that
year and a
about? I
half,
mean,
but he's still gonna have problems. He's still
He's
gonna
got
have
enough
problems.
money to pay for protection in there. I mean,
It's crazy, right? It's
yeah,
crazy.
you can get anything in American prisons. You can get drugs, cell phones, guns, knives. They do guards smuggle
Luca,
that stuff in. There's a guy, a famous TikToker, Jeremy McCord. He talks about this all the time that like you can get anything in prison. You can pay for anything. You can pay for protection. So why is Diddy involved in a brawl unless somebody
it's odd.
ambushed him? But these
He could
rappers
have just
move
started a fight.
possibly. I mean, like these rappers move around with an entourage though, and I would imagine he has an entourage in prison. Just a group of goons around him, a big old no necks. So Interesting story. The whole Diddy case too, very fishy. James Comey's daughter was the lead prosecutor on that case, Maureen Comey. That
Yeah.
she also prosecuted Ghislaine Maxwell too. So lots of high-profile cases. He was held at the Metropolitan D.C. Detention Center, the same one where Epstein took his own life in, the same one that Nicolas Maduro is held in, the same one that held the guy that shot the healthcare CEO. Luigi
Luigi
Mangione,
Mangione.
the same one that held the pharma bro, Martin Scarelli. I think
Yeah.
that
Sam
Metropolitan,
Bankman-Fried.
that's the deep state prison, man.
We got to get Scarelli on the show.
If you commit deep state crimes, that's where you go. Is that
Yeah.
prison? That's where Diddy was for a while as well. I think maybe he still is. I'm not sure,
I
but
think that's where, I don't know if they moved him. I don't think I could be wrong. I'll have to check, but yeah. Um, he
I
was
think
there
they
for a
might have
while.
moved him because
He was there for a while though.
Yeah, I saw a
'Cause-
picture of Diddy on a prison yard, and there's no
Oh,
yard
okay.
at the
Right.
Metropolitan
Yes,
DC.
you're right. I saw that. But he
Yeah.
was there before the trial, quite a while before the trial, during the whole trial, obviously, and then a little bit after the trial. So he was there for quite a long time. It's not a
Mm.
place you want to, I mean, I imagine it's not a place you want to spend any time, but, I don't think you want to spend much time there if you have to spend any.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what Diddy does when he gets out because he's one that kind of likes the limelight, likes the show. I'd say the whole trial of Diddy was some sort of I don't know, some sort of weird distraction, kind of like the O.J. Simpson trial, just a really it
It
broadcasted
was a
all
lot
over
of
the news.
nothing. It was a
Yeah.
lot of nothing. I don't mean nothing. Okay, I don't mean to put down the victims or the crimes or anything. I just mean that figuratively. It was a lot of smoke. Let's put it this way. It was a lot of
Yes.
smoke for you know, n- not that big of a fire. I think there was more smoke than there should have been. Let's put it that way. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people would agree with that after the fact.
Well, it was all that you heard about in the news for a long time, and then it just went
Yeah,
away. There was
podcasts, documentaries. It was a big moneymaker for a while there for
there
people.
was allegations that Diddy was like doing had like a little Epstein thing going, that he was engaged in blackmail and he was like
Yeah,
working for the CIA to control these musicians, and
yeah,
people were like, all this stuff's gonna come out. And that's why I bring up Maureen Comey, because her being the lead prosecutor on that case, it's like, if there is sensitive material that's involved, you need somebody to handle that. That's in the deep state, so to say. Same reason they brought in, the attorney general in 2019 for the Epstein case, Bill Barr, whose father, Donald Barr, had given Epstein his first job. And then Bill Barr comes in and he's the attorney general for like 9 months
yeah,
just for the Epstein case. And then he leaves. He was there to handle it, make sure everything goes well. And then there he goes.
yeah,
So very weird.
exactly. And that's what I'm kind of saying about when we were talking about Rubio. I think he's real, like he's a part player. So, move this guy around, and when he needs to play a part, we'll throw him in there. And, I think
Mm.
that's what he's grooming to be after his big. I think this will be his big job, and then he'll get bounced around a little bit.
Yeah, I think people come in and I don't know, either they get compromised or they get threatened, or I mean, just look what happened to Dan Bongino.
Yeah, man.
Maximum conspiracy guy, and now it's like I don't know if this dude got brainwashed. I don't know if he's got a chip in his brain. I don't know what's going. Obviously, I'm just half joking with this stuff, but it's like
Yeah,
he's done a complete 180. He's a completely different person now. And that's really shocking to me. Like, he came into the FBI guns a-blazing, and it didn't take long for him to quickly change his tune. And I don't even know, the jackass is still podcasting. I don't know
yeah, he
how he
is.
got the
Yeah,
balls
it's
to get on the
ridiculous.
air
Yeah,
after.
it's
You know,
unbelievable. It's
yeah.
unbelievable. Um, honestly, I like there's the possibility that he was fully turned or turned halfway through, but there's also the possibility that like they thought, okay, like he's a former Secret Service agent, which is also laughable, right? Like the
Mm.
guy's a fucking joke. Do you see him on camera when he's like doing that kind of shit? Like the guy's a fucking joke.
You think he paddled anyone?
I think he's in a few fraternities.
I think so too.
Yeah, you know.
He's got that vibe.
Yeah, he's got that gay motherfucker in charge
Yeah.
vibe. Yeah. But like they could have thought, because like some of like Trump 2.0 administration is just like, it's like a fantasy draft of fuck ups and sacrificial lambs. So maybe this guy was like, you know what, we'll bring him in so that because of him taking this job and the information that he sees, he's binded. He can't talk about it. And then that's all he says now. That's one of his big talking points is, I've seen it. I know. I can't talk about it. And it's like he's really kind of turned that into a way to deflect. And
He's destroyed himself. He had a
yeah,
really popular podcast. He had a huge following. He left that to take this job at the FBI that doesn't pay very well. He was there for like 9 months. And then, like, now he goes back to podcasting. He's destroyed his audience. He's destroyed his credibility. The whole thing doesn't make sense.
yeah, yeah. Okay, moving on. Let's get into one of our bigger stories. Elon Musk. A lot going on with him. SpaceX started falling a few days ago, so he's lost probably over 600 billion in market value there, give or take. Tesla started dropping. Just having a lot of issues. I guess it's been said he's lost, give or take, 40% of his net worth in a month, which is crazy. Now he's trying to raise 4 billion for another company, which just crazy on its own as well. Why do you have to raise it? Just, these people, they don't want to spend their own money, right? Um,
Mm.
but maybe he's really worried. I don't know. Uh, he I mean, he had that interview with I think at The Economist or whatever he had. That didn't go well. Um, he said a lot of interesting things in that, and then he branded the journalist as a traitor to the West. He had one of his kind of autistic flarebacks. Yeah, man. What are your thoughts? I know you're a Musk fan. Um, I think he's a great disruptor. I think he's a great character in this series we live in. Yeah, I mean I've done some research on him. I've read a book on him, and I pay attention to what he does and everything. He's definitely, like I said, he's definitely a good or evil. His good intentions, good or evil. He's definitely, I think, the best real life Bond villain that we have right now. Way better than Jeff Bezos. Um,
Mm.
so I'll say that. But
He's
what
smarter
do you
than
think,
Bezos.
man?
He's
Oh, for
smarter
sure,
than
man.
Bezos. Well,
Obviously he's very brilliant,
so
very
first of
bright.
all, SpaceX, even after the crash right now, has a market cap of $1.48 trillion. So that's what it would cost to buy all of the SpaceX stock. For contrast, ExxonMobil has a market cap of 650 billion. So it's valued right now by the market over twice what ExxonMobil is, which is crazy because SpaceX is not a profitable company. So it's a lot of speculation. I mean, right now the betting on space is all speculative. There's no profit in it quite yet. I mean, you launch satellites into orbit, whatever, GPS, but there's like no real economic benefit just yet. Maybe there will be in the future, but it's mostly scientific and other things. So I think the valuation is huge. He's definitely, I feel, probably painted himself into a bit of a corner because of his association with Trump and Doge and everything. Tesla's main customer base is probably liberal, Democrat, California type people, and those are the same people that do not like Trump. So it was interesting, from a financial standpoint for him to make those moves. I think the biggest reason why he did it was he was really upset at all of the government agencies and regulation, and the bureaucracy that had been messing with SpaceX for a long time. The Biden administration went after SpaceX pretty hard, with like the EPA, and there were some other like there was like a lawsuit claiming that they didn't hire enough foreign-born workers when they couldn't because they have Department of Defense contracts where you can't have foreign nationals working for you. So I think he kind of wanted to go on this crusade against the federal bureaucracy, and that's why Tesla's earnings fell by 38% because there was this huge push against him. Maybe it wasn't all organic too. Folks like George Soros, can fund. Like there was this whole campaign to like destroy Tesla dealerships. The
Yeah.
campaigns aren't necessarily organic. Um, I do think Musk is more of a force for good, probably than some people. I don't necessarily like how he constantly posts about attacks against white people or immigration. I think that kind of stuff's a little divisive, and maybe if you want to post on that every now and then, sure. But I mean, he's posting like multiple times a day, him or his assistant, multiple times a day on X, and after a while, it's like, okay, man, I get it. There's North Africans that live in Europe, Well, let's there's other stuff going on in the world besides this. you know. What are your thoughts on Elon there, Jordan?
I mean, like I said, he obviously is a very bright individual. Um, I think we owe him for certain things. In a sense, like, I mean, I think Twitter was going in a really bad direction. I mean, it's still very, I mean, it's not that Twitter, X is the best thing now, but I do
He
think
definitely
that
saved free speech online.
I
He
do
saved
think he saved it. Yeah. And obviously, he, I mean, now you have a lot of different options, but for the most part, when it comes to, you know, X, Grok, um, his internet is Starlink,
Starlink, yeah.
um, maybe not so much the self-driving cars and stuff, but some of that different stuff and the Tesla kind of technology and the space technology. I mean, he's been kind of the pioneer on a lot of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and even like to our level, like he was giving us this, X as he did, and Grok, that kind of stuff for free before there was any other really well-known options, right? So you got to give him props. I am interested in hearing more about what he has to say. I haven't watched the whole interview, but I probably should, because he does get into some interesting things, like he thinks he's not far right. He's beginning to regret. Uh, Oops, what is it? There we go. He's regretting getting so involved with Trump. He got carried away with Trump um uh and Doge. So, it's good that a man can admit his mistakes and try and do better. But like, oh, here, like this photo just reminds me, like, what was he doing that day when he came out with he was given the chainsaw, and he came out and he honestly, like, he was obviously, he had to have been very high on something or whacked out on something that day. Just the way he was talking, he basically was a meme that day. And like, it's like, okay, that I don't want that Elon in charge of things. Like, he seems to want to be a child. I know he had a rough childhood. Um, but maybe just try to pass that along to your many, many children. Instead of trying to live it yourself, man. I mean, I think he needs to be more of a mature guy instead of doing stunts like doing stunts like the chainsaw thing, and worrying about how much people think about you, like having to pay someone to play your video games for you, and then you make a fucking fool out of
Oh yeah,
yourself
so that
by
was interesting. He claimed
by
to be like the top Diablo player in the world, or
yeah,
one of the top Diablo players, and it
yeah,
turned out he had just been paying someone to get him all like the armor and weapons.
yeah,
That was pretty funny. There's an
and it
interview
came
where he's
out.
like, "Yes, I'm one of the top Diablo players in the world," and
Well, he was telling Joe Rogan that, and Joe Rogan was just like, he just swallows anything that comes out of him. No pun intended. Um, and then it came out because he made the fucking mistake. He always makes the mistake. He made the mistake of streaming himself playing, and the way he was talking and the way he was performing the actions in the game, everyone knew, like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. This guy's never played the game. This guy doesn't know how to game. So he just Wizard of Oz style, he just threw that curtain open, and humiliated himself. Um, yeah, not
I
that
think
people like Joe Rogan will call him out on it, but
he's
at least
definitely a
people.
good PR guy. Like he knows what gets attention. He knows what makes the headlines. The chainsaw thing, I think he knew that, like there's this thing, all publicity is good publicity. I mean, we're sitting
Yeah,
here talking about it. You remember the Nazi salute he did
yeah,
where he
but yeah, but we're
I think
criticizing it.
he knew 100% how that would be taken. He knew it would be a controversy. He knew
Oh,
he could.
the salute, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure,
yeah,
for sure, yeah,
he knew that
yeah,
what people would say about it, and he knew it'd be this huge thing that he could say, "Oh, well, I didn't mean it. I'm just autistic or whatever."
yeah.
But again, all publicity is, in my opinion, good public. I mean, Trump's a great example of this. No matter how many stories would come out about him, in 2016 when he was first running, like he made fun of a disabled reporter, which was kind of he was like, "I don't
Yeah.
know what I said,"
Yeah,
and people like went crazy, but it was kind of funny, you're just like,
yeah,
ah,
for
you
sure,
know.
man.
So yeah, yeah. But I think he definitely knows what captures the headlines. And now he's trying to do a little damage control because it's affecting Tesla stock. He's involved in a lot of tech companies. And, probably a lot of employees might not want to work for him because a lot of these people are like super liberal. So, but yeah, I think he's navigating now and trying to get back some. Tara Jackson thinks he's evil.
Mhm.
Trying to get back some market cap for Tesla now. I think he's trying to do a little damage control. It was interesting seeing him come to the White House with a black eye. Uh,
Yeah,
Black Eye
that's
Club,
the Black
all
Eye
the
Club. That's right, my
celebrities and
friend.
people that have had black eyes. I mean, black eyes aren't super common. Here's the thing with it, like getting a black eye as an adult, unless you're brawling, unless you're like, it's not a common thing that happens. And he said, I told my son to punch me in the face as hard as he can. I have a son, and that is not something I would ever say to my kid. At no time in his life would I come to him and say, hey, buddy, sock me in the face. So that story was clearly a lie. I assumed maybe he got into an altercation with maybe Trump, and maybe he got too close to him, and his security detail came over and hit him. That's what I assumed happened. But maybe that was his induction into the Illuminati. Who knows?
Crazy, man. Yeah,
Who knows?
it's who knows? It could be anything, right? Yeah, man. Fair enough. All right, let's keep things moving. I'm gonna move things around a little bit. Let's got a little less than an hour left, so let's jump into the Andrew and Tristan Tate um, debacle. So we'll give people a little bit of an update here on what's going on with him, and then Adam, I'll see about your thoughts. We can kick that around a bit, and then we'll move on. So let's begin. So Recently, after traveling back to the U.S., the Tate brothers were arrested by U.S. Marshals in Miami. They are being held pending extradition proceedings, and the U.K. must submit full extradition materials. Meanwhile, the brothers, of course, are denying all allegations. So earlier in July, the Crown Prosecution Service authorized numerous additional charges following further investigation. For Andrew Tate, the allegations include 7 more counts of ape, 3 trafficking for sexual exploitation counts, 3 actual bodily harm counts, and numerous offenses relating to alleged indecent images of a child in extreme pornography. For Tristan Tate, additional allegations include sexual assault, 2 counts of rape, uh, and 3 trafficking accounts. These all relate to alleged victims and alleged conduct between 2010 and 2017. So Friday, July 18th, Andrew and Tristan are arrested by federal marshals, transported to the federal detention center in Miami, booked pending an additional appearance. They were not charged with any new U.S. crimes. The proceedings only concern the UK's extradition request. The arrest immediately dominated on social media and independent media, with one side of the coin describing it as politically motivated, while others argue it reflects accumulation of allegations across multiple jurisdictions, and that the Tates are not at all squeaky clean. Many supporters expected the Trump administration to intervene because the brothers have publicly supported Trump. They have relationships with several conservative influencers. Their attorney, Joseph McBride, has ties to the Trump circles, and some mega-aligned commentators argued the prosecution was politically motivated, as mentioned. All of these things obviously tickles Trump's fancy. So a little bit of a timeline here, because there's a couple interesting points, I think, since he's been arrested. So the 19th, after they were arrested, the UK prosecution service announced additional charges, including more allegations of ape, trafficking, sexual exploitation, child sexual abuse, etc. On the 20th, Sunday, the brothers made an initial appearance before a U.S. magistrate judge. The hearing was largely procedural to confirm their identities, explain the process, and let them know that detention will be continued. So on between the 21st and the 23rd, jail conditions became a major topic, as Andrew's legal team says he has been placed in the special housing unit, commonly referred to as segregated housing or the SHU. According to the defense, he had no regular access to the general population. He was isolated for safety reasons because of the nature of the allegations. I imagine because now there's some charges involving children, which isn't good, especially if you're in prison. And he had no access to a phone, and communications occurred only through attorney visits. None of these claims were independently verified by jail officials. On the 23rd, the White House publicly stated that President Trump would not block the UK extradition process. The administration's position was essentially that the extradition request should proceed through the normal process, and the White House was not directing the courts, and there would be no plan for Trump to intervene politically. So if this is true, a federal judge will decide whether the UK request satisfies the treaty and U.S. legal requirements. And if the judge does certify the extradition, then the matter goes, of course, to the U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. He has final executive decision on whether to surrender the Tates, although Rubio has said he does not currently expect to become personally involved in the Tate matter. Between the 23rd and 24th, things start to get more interesting. Andrew begins describing jail publicly. So because he doesn't have access to social media directly, his lawyers stated that Andrew is dictating messages for his staff to later post. His posts described isolation, deteriorating health, being treated as a political prisoner, lack of basic comforts, and just more general bitching like a little baby. Between the 24th and 25th, the dirty water allegations start. I don't know if you've heard about this, but this is where things get ridiculous. Andrew begins to claim his sink faucet was broken. He has not been permitted bottled water, and the only water available came from a shower or a brown, filthy faucet, which is now causing him stomach problems. He described it as poisoned water. As of now, there's been no public confirmation of any of these facts through Federal Bureau of Prisons or any of the detention center about the contamination of the water, his faucet, any of that stuff. So between the 25th and the 26th, gastrointestinal illness claims. Andrew expanded on his earlier statements, and he's now alleging that the drinking water has resulted in persistent stomach problems. On social media, supporters speculated about contaminated plumbing or intentional treatment, though, of course, there's no evidence of that. Now come the defecation claims. Andrew posted that he had become so ill that he was defecating uncontrollably, unable to properly manage basic hygiene, and effectively defecating everywhere. The claims, of course, have not been verified. No public medical records corroborating this have been released. Now, here's where it gets super hilarious. Between the 26th and the 27th, Tristan Tate posts a contradictive statement. He publishes a message thanking the Florida correctional officers for their professionalism while still maintaining that he should not be incarcerated. His comments sharply contrast with Andrew's more severe descriptions of the jail conditions. It's funny that they're not on the same script. I mean, are they in different? I mean, they should probably be both in the same center, obviously not in the same cell, I wouldn't think, but they should be in the same area, so I don't think they're getting treated any different. So the latest on that, long story short, on the 27th there was a federal status conference, took place in federal court. Their detention was continued. Any possible bail hearing or further detention hearing is scheduled for August the 13th. The UK has been given additional time to provide extradition materials, and the defense announced to seek release before the hearing. The Tates defense attorney, Joseph McBride, stated publicly that the brothers are being harassed by other inmates because of the allegations involved the sexual offenses, and that they have targets on their back. He also said that they are largely being kept apart from the general population, and prolonged isolation is harming their mental health. Again, these statements have not been independently confirmed by jail authorities by any means. So yeah, sorry that was a lot. Before I get your opinion, yeah, man, I think it's hilarious how like a year ago he was in Miami screaming, come get me, and he spent the last year, spouting off at the hip about how he's such a tough motherfucker and how he's built different and how he's top G. He's a tough motherfucker, but like he clearly is a fucking baby, man. Can't handle prison. He's clearly lying. He's making something up, it sounds like. Unless his brother's just getting treated way better than him. But yeah, your thoughts, my friend.
I think I'm probably just going to wait for some more stuff to come out. I haven't looked at this too terribly close. In the beginning, I looked into it, and it's pretty divided. Some people think it's kind of a witch hunt. Some people think there's some substance here. Uh, y- you know, it does. It depends on if the accusations are from like, you know, what women said happened years and years ago. I know that the original charges they had against him were kind of trumped up. I mean, obviously he never got convicted of them.
Yeah.
It all turned out to be just kind of a farce. He's very loud online. He makes lots of enemies. He says things that upset people. I certainly don't agree with everything the guy says. He tends to treat his audience kind of badly, and maybe they kind of enjoy that, where he just sits there with a big old cigar and tells them that they're just a bunch of brokies, and they'll never have any um, they'll never have success because all they do is sit around and play video games. He rails against porn all the time, and he made his empire initially off of cam girls, people paying for porn. So,
Hypocritical, man.
you
He's
know,
so
um,
hypocritical.
he's definitely a complicated guy. I think he's definitely figured out that shock is what gets engagement on social media. Being a moderate doesn't make your content spread. If you put out a tweet that just is, pretty mild mannered, it's not going anywhere. But if you make some really radical, inflammatory statement, people start commenting on it and it spreads.
Yes.
And he's even said this before. If you watch interviews, he even his tone changes. When he talks like this and he's got his cigar in his hand, and that's not how he normally talks. He's, kind of a softer guy when the cameras are off. So he is playing a part a bit. Um, my my initial thoughts on this, and I would like for more information to come out, but my initial thoughts are it's probably a bit of a witch hunt, just like the initial charges against him were. But again, we'll see where this goes. He's got lots of enemies that are probably in really powerful places. He definitely went hugely against the mainstream woke narrative in 2019. And that's what got him a lot of followers because no one was saying the
Yeah.
things he was saying. No one was out there pushing back against the woke agenda, really. And so he kind of got fame and notoriety from that.
I
So,
th- I think he's lucky because people seem to forget, his fans and stuff seem to forget all the old videos that are around to him, like that make him look like such a fucking loser and such a cringe guy. Like, have you seen like the pimp and hose degree video where he's like, "That's my pimp and hose degree," and he's like, it's so cringe that like you cannot tell me that the Andrew Tate now would not badmouth the old Andrew Tate. Like it's unbelievable, man. It's unbelievable. Like anytime he's like, some people say, it looks like when I'm on webcam, it looks like I'm in the bedroom of a 15-year-old girl or a 14-year-old girl or something. And some people would take that as disrespect, but I take that as a compliment. And like the things, like he's such a creep, man. He's a creep. He's admitted to he's laid it out basically that he's been pimping and sleeping with girls that are underage. uh, he he talks like, oh, well, 15, 16, 18, what's the age here in the States? Oh, well, I'm used to Romania. Like he talks like that, like as if he's like showing it off, and it's like it's like that's toxic. That's disgusting. um he's very hypocritical. He's definitely broken laws to some degree. um but I agree. I'd like to see more evidence. I'd like to see more of something.
yeah.
But I mean, as of now, we have the Romania 2022 trafficking case still pending, no conviction. The new Romania investigation ongoing, no conviction. We got this UK, his historic sexual offense case. Charges have been authorized, awaiting extradition. He has U.S. Okay, yeah. He's got UK civil lawsuits. He's got tax proceedings, and then he's got earlier lifetime criminal convictions. Oh, sorry, no, sorry, none, no earlier lifetime convictions identified. But he doesn't play by the rules, and I don't mean that um, in like in like the cheeky way. Like obviously he's to a degree he does criminal behavior, um, and also I would love to add that I've seen the text messages about how like he talks about how he's going to own girls and beat girls and grape girls, but I also understand that they're role playing and the girls are probably consenting to that. And I've seen the video
Some
of
chicks are
him.
into that stuff.
Yes,
I mean,
Yeah. Oh, buddy.
some chicks like it. The one thing I
Yes.
will say is there's people out there that are walking around free. People like Bill Clinton, people like Bill Gates. Why don't they get prosecuted,
Yeah.
but Andrew Tate does?
Well,
So
I think they both should. I
yes,
think they both should.
obviously.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's like it is I often wonder is the reason that Andrew Tate is so much under the microscope because he doesn't play ball with this, global cabal of elites. He has a huge following. And one thing that
I think he does. I think he plays with the cabal. I think he's.
yeah,
I think he's. I think he's. I think he's a. What do you call it? Oh, what do you call it?
if you play ball, you don't get put in jail. You don't get extradited and I don't know. I think that I'm sure he's not the most morally upstanding guy, but there's probably people right now that have jobs in the US Congress and the White House that are worse than him. And, why is he always so persecuted? So I'll definitely be keeping my eye on the story and we'll see where it goes. Maybe it's just another farce like before. But as you said before, I would really like to see Bill Clinton in handcuffs. I would really like to
Yeah,
see Bill Gates in handcuffs. I'd like to see Woody Allen in hand.
because
There's lots
we
of
have
people.
more. We have just as much. We have more evidence or reason to believe. Well, we have just as much reason to believe, but we have more. I'd call it evidence or materials that point directly to that these people are breaking laws. They're
Mhm.
doing nefarious activities. They're hiding it because they know it's illegal. They know that their companies that they work for, their business partners they work with, for the most part, wouldn't put up with it. So, yeah, it's a very tainted pool, I think.
Let me share here. We're gonna play one of Andrew Tate's um old videos here. Music
Okay.
video.
Oh God.
Mr. Plenty.
I
So,
I know if he wasn't such a piece of shit, like he can
would
be
you jam
funny.
out to Mr. Plenty?
No, I would enjoy his I'd be able to laugh and enjoy his stuff more. But the like when I see him sitting like shirtless in like a thong with his legs spread out with a big cock cigar in his mouth, like trying to tell me that it's like saying things like it's gay to have sex with women and Nick Fuentes style stuff like that. It's like, dude, don't tell me you're not gay. Like that guy's totally gay. He's totally bisexual, uh if not full blown gay. So
Possible. I mean,
yeah,
like we discussed
I
earlier,
think so.
it is kind of a thing with like super macho alpha men
He's the
to engage
bottom
in
G.
kind of that homosexual behavior, if nothing else, to just like, dominate another man because they're so tough. Like there is kind of that you do kind of see that. So,
Yeah,
but
fair enough. um All right, so yeah, we'll wait to see what happens with that. I don't know if anything will happen next week, but whenever we get something more on it, we will definitely come. We'll definitely come back to that one. Let's jump into because let's jump in quickly to the Kirk case, and then we can get into the Iran war, and then I don't know if we're gonna have much time after that, but um, you know what? You know what? Screw it. We're gonna save the Kirk case for we can save that for next week because I don't think there's gonna be anything necessarily new on it. The people that know about it, and then the people that aren't so up on it, we can just do a quick recap on it maybe next week or something. If we have time after Iran, maybe we will, but let's jump into Iran a little bit because
mm,
I mean a lot
fresh
going on there.
attacks. Fresh attacks last night. This
Oh,
is going to be
please
the
tell.
Yeah, this is dude. They've signed peace deals. This is going to be like the fifth time the peace deal has been broken. So Iran, I believe, launched a surprise attack last night at some U.S. bases in Jordan, and then of course Trump said we're gonna crush Iran. So it's a very ongoing. Saudi Arabia also launched some attacks against Iranian-backed militias in Iraq,
Yep,
which
proxies.
obviously the U.S. did a crackerjack job of, setting Iraq up for success after 15-year military campaign over there or whatever it was. I saw a thing. It's interesting. The reason the insurgency was so bad in Iraq was because we basically came in and like fired the military and the police. Like we all these military aged trained men we fired and pissed them off. And so they were just ripe for, and then of course the conspiracy angle would be we helped spark the insurgency a little bit or funded the groups behind it. I mean, who knows? Um, but yeah, yeah. U.S. really screwed Iraq up. And maybe that was the purpose, maybe because Iraq had the largest, like one of the largest militaries in the world before we invaded it. At least the first time. They were a very strong military in terms of sheer numbers. And maybe that's something Israel didn't like too much.
Fair enough, man. Yeah, like, yeah, it's definitely a possibility, right? Um, so let's see. Let's do some updates for people that don't like to pay attention to what's going on. So, 23rd, Iran rejected a U.S. ceasefire offer delivered by Iraq. I mean, those ceasefires never really seem to stick anyways, but we have two U.S. ships were hit in an apparent drone strike at an Egyptian port. I think that was the first attack, and then the one you just mentioned, I think, followed that. So an explosion at a port on Egypt's Mediterranean coast set fire to two ships, including a U.S. gas storage tanker. Um, so maybe gas prices will go up even more. For fuck's
Which
sake.
they must have been launched from the Mediterranean Sea or within Egypt. They wouldn't have been launched from Iran. You're not going to fly a drone, whatever, 800 miles from Iran. So they must be getting a little bit better at, subterfuge or whatever you want to call it. So getting a little bit more dicey out there for the U.S.
Well, that's a big thing we're going to get into, actually. So hold that thought, my friend, because
Ooh,
I'm
oh,
glad that you
tell.
said that. I'm glad you said that because we will definitely be getting into that for a few different reasons. Um, so as I think you and myself spoke about this the other day. There's an oil tanker that actually exploded after hitting a mine in the Strait of Hormuz.
Wow.
Um, that's huge, man. Like that's uh, it's it was one thing when the mines were there and everything, and it was already hostile and scary, but you know, yeah, now it just seems to be getting more and more real um as the days go on. And I mean, I'm honestly not all that surprised. Uh it's just more so just very sad and disturbing that that it's still going. I had a feeling that this would drag on. I didn't think it would be a quick fix, even when it started and they took out the leader and they took out so many of their top guys right away.
300. 300 people they assassinated. I mean, just for context, Venezuela, one person, Nicolas Maduro, they get rid of him. The rest of the government starts cooperating with the U.S. We killed 300 of the top leaders of Iran. The way that Ayatollah Khomeini, for good or bad, whatever you think of the guy, the way he set the country up, it's for almost like over a century, they had been ruled by British influence and American influence, and there was Mossadegh, there was the Shah's son. All these people had all this Western influence on their government, and they really wanted to do. Khomeini, when he took power, wanted to do away with it, so he set this system up to be impenetrable from the outside, and that's why the U.S. is having such a hard time getting to them. I mean, whatever you think about the country itself, they survived. They survived their whole leadership getting decimated. They survived their military getting degraded by 70%. I mean, yeah, at a certain point, we have to admit this was a bad idea. We,
Yeah,
you know, and those oil
terrible.
tankers, how many do you, I mean, that one just exploded because it hit a mine. Iran has been telling ships that they must go on, they must traverse on pre-approved paths. So this oil tanker was probably taking a non-pre-approved path. How many more
Mm.
tankers are going to do that now? I mean,
Yeah,
you don't have to
yeah.
have necessarily complete and total control over it to the ability to blow up every ship that crosses. You just got to get like one or two. And then that fear, I mean, if you're an oil tanker captain or crew, you're not going to want to, try anything risky. And then the cost to insure those ships goes up exponentially, the insurance cost of these voyages. So it doesn't take much from Iran. It takes a few drones, a few mines, and they can have a real profound impact and control over that strait.
Well said, man. Well said. So, some other things that have happened. Melania and Barron Trump were recently targeted in a video encouraging their assassination. Uh, Also, they put up another big uh, Trump painting banner, threatening to kill him. Another big thing, 23rd, for a second time, the House approves resolution to end the Iran war. And I don't know,
Mm.
I mean, it should be good news, but you know, it's over a week ago now. So,
Well, it's got to go to the Senate,
you know,
and then if
and
it
yeah,
passes
but
the
my
Senate,
point
probably
is
won't
just
pass the Senate, but then
it's
Trump can
probably
just
not going
veto it.
anywhere. Yeah, probably not going
But
anywhere.
it's symbolic, it's a symbolic thing. The House of
Yeah, oh for
Representatives
sure.
is
At least they're showing that
mhm.
what they want. Yeah, I can agree with that, my friend, for sure.
Yeah. The House of Representatives, it's called the People's House because originally the Senate was elected, senators were elected actually by the state legislators. They weren't elected by the people. So the House of Representatives has always had like a historic duty to go along with the will of the people. Personally, I think we should get rid of the Senate in America. I think we should just have the House of Representatives. I don't know why the great state of Rhode Island gets two fucking senators and Texas gets two senators. You know, one of them,
Yeah.
one of them's like 60 square miles, and the other one's like 60,000 square miles or whatever. And probably an exaggeration, but yeah, it's this Iran war is not a good situation all the way around. And Netanyahu, the Israeli PM, has tried to pressure every single president since George Bush to attack Iran. They've all said no. Obama came up with a nuclear agreement for them, which they weren't abiding by, but whatever. And Trump's the first one to actually say, "Fine, let's do it." All this hubbub about nuclear weapons too. I mean, North Korea has nuclear weapons. Pakistan and India have nuclear weapons. Israel has nuclear weapons. I think a fair thing to say would be, okay, you want Iran to not have nuclear weapons. Then how about Israel get rid of theirs? Ooh, no one's ever suggested that. We never see that idea floated. And of course, you know how sneaky the Israelis are. They'd probably just bury a couple and, but
Yeah, man. Yeah.
yeah, it's not to sound like a middle schooler about it, but it's not fair that you tell Iran they can't have it when one of their neighbors, the most hostile country in the region, I would argue Israel, most hostile country in the region that is constantly attacking its neighbors, it's allowed to have nuclear weapons, but not Iran. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me, but what do I know?
What do we know, right?
Yeah, we're just a couple
Um,
guys.
just a couple guys just asking questions, like
Yeah,
Tucker.
just a couple greasy mathfucks.
Yeah, it's just couple greasy motherfuckers up in here, just doing things that motherfuckers do. You know what I'm saying? Um, so like you mentioned, we have Saudi Arabia joining the war officially for the first time. Um, one other thing, we got Vance and Staff Chairman General Dan Kane. They have raised concerns about escalating the war in Iran, which, I mean, I don't know, man. If Trump is plaqued under Israel, I don't think it's going to matter. Everyone's, Pete and everyone seemed to just be on the let's keep going. Um, and I guess U.S. pauses consecutive nights of strikes. That was a few days ago, though, so I don't know when they'll be restarting those. Um, Houthis strike two tankers in the Red Sea um, near an alternative shipping route, alternative to the Strait of Hormuz. So obviously that's going to affect oil. Um, yeah, so that's too bad. Another thing, I don't know, I've said it before, but I'll say it again. Hegseth might be on the chopping block soon. I think people are more and more unhappy with him, and he keeps doing these ridiculous suspensions and firings. We got two more officers who say they were forced out for questioning policies. Um, so I'm sure it's quite. I'm sure I'd say it's probably quite scary right now as a soldier, not only because you're at war, but obviously there's a lot of changes going on in the military and in the administration and all that stuff. Um, yeah, they probably don't necessarily have great stability in their feeling too. So that might be tough. That might be tough.
I did see a story where, at the onset of the war, Trump asked a general about the nuclear option. He said, what nuclear options do we have against Iran? And the general basically told him, absolutely not. Like, we're not, you know, um, kind of overruled Trump. And of course, Trump could fire the guy or whatever, but
Yeah.
that's scary too, because you also have these Israeli shill commentators, people like Laura Loomer and Ben
Yes.
Shapiro. Ben Shapiro's basically come out and said, why doesn't the U.S. just use its nuclear weapons? Well, you got them. Why don't you just bring them out?
Just use them. Why don't you just use them with my
Yeah.
fucking stupid facial hair? Yeah.
He said that to his, two real followers and 3 million bot followers. But I mean,
Yeah.
that's
So,
scary, dude. That's
yeah.
scary. It's like to use a nuclear weapon. Like, first of all, there's people in the US that still debate whether we should have dropped a nuclear bomb on Japan. Japan was an extremely hostile country. They hadn't surrendered. They did estimates. It would have cost millions of American lives to do a Normandy style invasion of Japan and conquer the entire country. So, to save American lives, we decided to, obviously nuke two cities and kill civilians. But I mean, that was and that's the last time nuclear weapons have been used. And if you look at the crimes that Iran has committed, it's like, okay, they enriched uranium up to 70%. It's like we need something a little bit more substantial before we go pulling out the big dogs. And there's a real threat here when this thing drags on. We see regional partners. We see Saudi Arabia get drug into it. We're seeing maybe Gulf states will join in soon. This thing has the capacity to draw in all of these countries, and eventually you might have a larger conflict where Israel could also use their nuclear weapons too. So Iran is not a pushover country. I mean, I think Americans have gotten kind of spoiled when we think of how quickly we knocked over Afghanistan, how quickly we knocked over Iraq. Iran is a huge country. They're a historic superpower. There's 90, 120 million people that live there. I mean, it's a very large country. It's an important country, sits on a very important part of the globe. And, as we've talked about before, with the rise of drone warfare and what we see in Ukraine, the Russian military stalling, essentially, drones favor the defender heavily. So if the U.S. were to try some sort of ground invasion of Iran, it would be horrific. It would be a World War II style battle. I mean, Russia Ukraine combined losses are about, each side's probably lost between 750,000 to 1 million troops. And just
That's
for context,
unbelievable,
it is
man.
unbelievable, and it's
That
not
is
talked about.
unbelievable.
It is.
Holy shit,
The
dude.
U.S. lost 500,000 troops in World War II. And that's still, everyone knows someone that, my, grandpa died in World War II. Like, a lot of people died in World War II, and a lot more people, you know, from once, 500,000 in the US versus a million Russians have died in this.
That's
So
crazy.
that's the kind of casualties you'd be talking about for some sort of invasion of Iran. We just kind of need to wrap this thing up and go. It sounds like Iran's going to control the Strait of Hormuz. They really have no reason to come to the negotiating table. They've been sanctioned. Their military's been degraded. We've done everything we can. Nothing's worked. And they're saying, okay, now we want control of the Strait of Hormuz. And it's probably just going to happen. And there is precedent for this. Turkey controls the strait, right by Istanbul that goes into the Black Sea. Turkey controls
Okay.
that, and they collect a toll on it. So, I mean, there's precedent for this, and it sounds like that's what's going to happen. And, Trump's just needs to kind of see the writing on the wall. Trump and Israel, I should say. A lot of people say that, Trump's being controlled by
Yeah.
Israel. I don't know, to what extent that is, but as we
I think,
discussed earlier, the sword of Damocles, the assassination attempts on him. I know that your opinion of Tucker, you don't like him as much as I do, but Tucker Carlson had Joe Kent on, and Joe Kent said basically the attempt on Trump's life in Butler is related to his inability to say no to Israel. So, you know,
hmm, well,
maybe
yeah, man. That's I like that you brought, sorry, can you repeat again? It's the what was the term you're referencing? The Nomocles?
the sword of Damocles.
Damocles, sorry, not
Yeah.
Normocles. The sword of Damocles. All right, right on, man. I like that.
It's a
I like
sword
that.
that nobody sees besides the emperor that's threatening his life, essentially. It's an old tale. I heard Russell Brand say it. Russell
Oh,
Brand brought that up.
okay. Let's move on then. Um, fuck that guy. Um, so as you were saying, as you were saying, like Iran's no pushover, right? So we got the drones. We have here they're getting more weapons, better weapons, and it's causing a real issue. Um, what's gonna happen when they can just start, like, never mind they just start destroying Israel or somewhere else. What if they start getting stuff that can start affecting Americans more?
I don't
Um,
think they would do that because then you would have I mean, if they bombed a city like Miami or New York, if they actually killed Americans, that would be basically exactly what, Trump or whoever would want because that'd be another Pearl Harbor, another 9/11.
yeah.
I don't think they would do that. I think they're going to keep it regional over there. But I mean, like you said, they are no pushover. They're not just some ragtag country. A lot of Americans, and I think we're getting better about this. America 20 years ago was much worse. We kind of had this attitude that we were number one, everyone else was substandard. But I mean, as we're seeing, Iran is not a pushover country. They can hold their own, and they're doing that. They're resilient.
And they're rebuilding, they're resupplying. Um, now they're getting what here they're getting missile systems from China. So, what if China starts pitching in more? You know, there's a lot of factors here. Uh,
Chinese
that
sure
are.
are crafty, aren't they?
Oh, you got that right, my friend.
They're
You got that
very
right, my friend.
crafty.
You got that right because we can't do a yeah. U.S. can't do anything about that. Like China could China could just demolish the United States by pulling out all their interests and money and stuff from the banks and just completely cripple the economy. Who knows what else they can do, right? So they're not gonna get into a big puffin match with China. Uh, I think that's the doomsday kind of scenario. U.S. versus Russia is one thing, but I think U.S. China, it's over. It's not going to be a fun fight for anybody.
The Chinese have definitely been playing a long game, and like that's one thing with one political party you can do. It doesn't matter what the public thinks. You don't have to do these things to influence elections and midterms and presidential. It's just one party, and so they can do a 50-year plan, a 100-year plan. U.S. presidents come in and they've got to get shit done in 4 years, otherwise, they get voted out. So they're able to play long games and foster relationships. They don't engage in regime change and assassinations and all this shady shit that the CIA does. They do economic partnerships with countries, and they get in where they can fit in. And I think we're seeing a rising China, and they've got more energy than the U.S. does. Right now, we're trying to keep them from getting computer chips for AI, but they're getting close to figuring out how to manufacture those chips themselves. And if they someday they're going to take Taiwan, they could do it at any time, really.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
Taiwan is where a lot of those chips are manufactured, which totally sub thing here. If you're ever bored, look up how you make a CPU chip, like a 15-minute YouTube video. It's insane. It's like, how did we even think of this technology? A lot of people think it's like, reverse engineered alien technology or whatever, which it's not too far off the mark for me. But like Taiwan is like the only place that makes these CPUs. So if China takes that, they'll surpass us in AI. They've already surpassed us in energy. A lot of people think that the environmental movement was like a Chinese psyop to keep the US and the West from building coal fired power plants because the Paris Climate Accords went in and Europe and everywhere focused on wind and solar, which is a lot of bullshit, really. I
yeah.
mean, and China doubled down on coal. They just started building a shit ton of coal plants, and so they have the ability to generate a lot more electricity than any other country. So
Hmm.
yeah, very crafty.
I think, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they're already ahead of us in certain things like AI and weaponry, and because they don't have to show it off or use, especially like this war. You know, we probably won't get into it today, but I'm pretty sure that the Navy anyway is using like non-approved methods to make repairs, 3D printed repairs, 3D printed items and stuff like that, and
Huh.
using new technologies sooner than they should be because like they're running into a lot of issues here. Uh, and without escalating, it's a weird place to be, I think, given the state of the war. Um, but I'd like to get into that maybe next week.
Did you see when I'm sorry to interrupt. Did you see when
No,
Trump and Xi met and they put Trump in a smaller chair than Xi?
no.
Xi Jinping, the Chinese leader. Let me find this. It's hilarious.
When was this?
Um,
I missed that
Yeah, it's basically a huge PR fail for
for the U.S. A few more things to get into, and then we can start wrapping up, I think. We definitely won't be able to get into everything I wanted to. That's okay though.
so you can see here they purposely lowered
Yo,
Trump's chair
jeez.
so where
Yeah.
he was like 6 inch lower than G, and like this is something they're supposed to like keep a watch on, like the
Yeah.
president's PR team and stuff. There's departments that try to prevent this from happening, and they didn't do their job. So it was like a pretty huge PR fail when Trump sat down and he was 6 inches lower than Xi Jinping. So just kind
Power
of those
move.
dumb little games that countries like to play.
Yeah, man.
But it does make for an interesting picture. You got the U.S. president sitting much lower than the Chinese president. Trump
Exactly.
should have just gone over there and taken his chair.
I'm surprised he did. Yeah, I mean, surprised he didn't make more of an issue about that. But so back to the U.S. Also, their weapons. they're having an issue with their weapon stockpiles.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, we
So
talked about this once as well. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. So they're relying on, or they're betting on Silicon Valley startups to replenish stockpiles amid the Iran war. Now the firms must prove they can manufacture at military scale. This is like this is a this is like this is like, it reminds me of World War II, where it's like, okay, we got to call on the people to stop what they're doing and start manufacturing stuff for the war. You
Mm.
know, like eh, that's not something that you just say, okay, start doing that right away. Like, I don't know, man. That's reckless. Um, I think when Trump was first running and they were all talking about, well, he's reckless, I think this is the kind of things people were worried about. I think we're seeing some of the the blowback from that now.
Well, the reason that the U.S. won World War II is because a lot of it was we could out manufacture the Germans. And like you said,
Right.
before, World War II, they came to factories that were making cars and they said you're going to make tanks now. They came to factories that were, doing conventional machining and said you're going to make guns. After World War II, we actually got the defense industry. These companies like, I don't know what they were at the time, but Lockheed and Boeing and
Halliburton and yeah.
Raytheon and you know, and their job is to make these. They have factories dedicated to making these armaments, and it's like some of these armaments, like you're talking about, these Patriot missile systems, these Hellfire missile systems, they're not going to be replenished until like 2030, and it's like this is a very limited military engagement. This wasn't a world war, and you're already like half or less than half of your total stockpile with a 5-year timeline to replace. It's like I wonder if we've just put so much technology into our weapons that they're so hard to manufacture. I mean, is like every one of them a supercomputer or something? Like maybe the US needs to get, back to basics a little bit and, get some cheaper bombs or figure out how to bang these things out because any sort of direct conflict with Russia or China or whenever Trump finally decides to annex Canada, we'll need those we'll, we'll need those extra armaments. We'll need the ability to manufacture them very quickly. Or Greenland. We'll probably take Greenland first.
Greenland, yeah, yeah, yeah. Go for Greenland. Go for
There's like
green, buddy.
100 people that live up there.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, come on.
We should just go fucking take Greenland, you know? Fuck.
There has been. I did see a thing that was like if the U.S. and Canada like had ever made like merged or like had more economic partnership, like less tariffs. It's like Canada has a shit ton of natural resources. The U.S. has a shit ton of like manufacturing capability. Like it would be a really good partnership for both sides. But then Trump came in and he enacted those tariffs, and then there was
Yeah.
retaliatory tariffs on the Canadian side, and
I think, yeah, he's really, I mean, yeah. I think though, I think what'll happen when he's gone though, possibly whoever the president is, even if it is Vance, I think when the prime minister and the president meet next, the new president, like I think there'll be a discussion and it'll be like, okay, Trump's gone. Please understand, like you know who he was, like a fucking like you would with a fucking
Mhm.
child, basically, right? So, yeah, that's what I think.
Well, some of those
I
trade
think
deals.
anyone else is professional enough to say, let's not let his fucking behavior dictate the rest of dictate our relationship.
Yeah. Now, I don't think this was the case with Canada, but some countries were being unfair to us in trade, and so I think there was
Agreed.
some adjustment there. But like this is going to be a dangerous precedent where Trump came in and he changed a lot. He renamed the Department of Defense to the Department of War. That should have been our first sign, by the way, that maybe he was going to do some backtracking on
Yeah.
campaign promises of not starting foreign wars. I mean, it hadn't been the Department of War since like 1945. But and then he put up the walk of presidents and the president's pictures, and he put Joe Biden's picture as an auto pin, and he just came in and did a bunch of stuff that, like, now if a Democrat comes in, they're going to change all this stuff, and it's like, now that's kind of a shitty precedent that we're going to have, because now it's like every president that comes in, are they just going to go changing a bunch of stuff and renaming the Gulf of America back to the Gulf of Mexico, and you know what I mean? Like,
It's like that pendulum I was talking about, right?
yeah,
So, yeah, if a Democrat comes in, Joe Biden's picture will be back and Trump's will be literally, let's face it. I mean, what else are they going to do other than put Joe Biden's picture back and replace Trump's with an orange,
yeah, something like that,
right?
or
I
yeah.
mean, or a child, or like literally a baby or something, or yeah. Uh, so, yeah, agreed. Um, Another thing we have going on, I don't know if have you heard about the Pentagon and the Department of War and them screwing with the death tolls, the U.S. death tolls.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. I just wanted to mention it. I need to do more in. I've only read one article, but I'd like to do a bit more diving in myself. But yeah, apparently they are putting. Uh, I mean, aside from just being very quiet, um,
Just not
apparently
releasing the numbers, yeah.
they're doing, I think, um, different websites. They're putting different numbers on different websites, and you have to go to, and not only are they fudging the numbers, but they're making it harder to determine the numbers, whether it's the right number or not, by making these different websites and stuff for people to have to go to and add it up and whatnot. So yeah, man, it doesn't look good. It just does not look good. Um, I remember when the war first started, the plane went down and the airman, was rescued. Well, first I remember the videos of the woman who got shot down and her almost being attacked by civilians, and then they're like, oh no, it's US, it's okay, American. But then the other guy went down, and they had to make that yeah, Tom Clancy style rescue op to get him. So now we just have the Americans just dying straight up. It's not like a one-off kind of thing. Like the numbers are adding up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even sure. I couldn't even tell you what the number is necessarily.
No, it's
But
not been reported.
I know it's one too many. And that's, in my eyes, that's enough to call bullshit and say that something's going on here, right? And things need to change. But the fact that they're trying to hide the numbers, it's despicable. It's just
Yeah.
despicable.
Well, it's a very unpopular war here in
Yeah.
America. I think the polls are probably wrong on it. The polls officially say that 66% of people now don't support it. I would put the number higher. I would put it up probably above 80%. I mean, just from the people that I talk to, I've not met a single person that's like super gung ho about it. I mean, there's no
I,
benefit. There's no benefit
I,
to America.
yeah,
And
man.
foreign wars are a symptom of declining empire, which we've talked a lot about that. And I'll say it again, god damn it. At least when the British went out and took territory, when the Spanish Empire, when the Portuguese, when the Dutch, when the any of these empires, the Romans, they would extract resources. And I'm not saying we should go around and colonize and, subjugate people, but it's like, starting wars for no reason, or just to create a market for, armaments and defense contractors, and just enriching a small group of people, and then getting nothing from the actual war, getting no land, getting no resources, getting no farms. Not a good, it's accelerating the decline of the empire even further, because we're just spending a bunch of money. So shameful.
Yeah,
Very shameful.
absolutely. Absolutely, man. Um,
The Romans would be disappointed.
oh, for sure. That's not how you. That's not how you conquer.
Now,
Yeah,
and
man.
now, we talk about bread and circus. Now they don't need to build a coliseum. Everyone's got a circus right here it's an instant distraction. If gosh, I remember one time we lost power at a place I lived. This neighborhood lost power for a few days. All of a sudden, people came outside. They were hanging out. You were talking to your neighbors. It was a totally different environment because none of us had, TV or anything. So very, very interesting what modern life has led to.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
I think we
Absolutely.
probably about needs to wrap her up unless there's
Yep.
something
Nope.
else you want to hop into.
I was literally just gonna say that's gonna do it for us. Um, Next week we will probably jump into the Kirk trial, maybe Epstein a little bit.
Ooh,
We'll see what's going on with McConnell the turtle. Um, I
definitely not brain dead.
also I really want to get into Jared Leto because that's finally blowing up. Um, and yeah, maybe we'll get into flock cams and stuff. There's a lot of stuff that we want to get into. I appreciate everyone being here, all the support. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. We are still, like I said, this is kind of new to us. We're still going to figure out the format and production a bit. Um, some episodes might be an hour and a half. Some episodes might be 2 hours plus. It just depends on what's going on, but we'll figure out the best ways to fit stuff in. And of course, uh, Divulgence and of course the Truth Desk will still be putting out their regular content covering various events, stories, people, happenings. So that won't change. But yeah, we'll end it there. We have a lot more to share, so we will make sure to be back next week. Adam, before we go, make sure to just let my folks know where to find you, please.
Yeah, just YouTube at the Truth Desk. All my other socials are either, Facebook, Instagram, X, either Truth Desk or at the Truth Desk. Just look for the Truth logo. Jordan, why don't you let my followers know where they can find you?
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. You can find the Divulgence podcast on YouTube and Rumble, as well as Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your audio podcasts. And we have just a few spots left for the iPad giveaway. We just need, I think, about 25 more slots to fill, and then we'll be doing that. So make sure to subscribe on YouTube and send the screenshot to divulgencemail@gmail.com. Otherwise, thank you to everyone for your support. Just a big shout out to Tara Jackson and much thank you for the tip and your support. I do notice you in the chat quite a bit, so your support is greatly appreciated. Not to mention a tip, which is definitely going above and beyond. So yeah, guys, please help me get to 1,000. But other than that, you guys can catch us next week. Make sure to subscribe to Divulgence and Truth Desk. And yeah, take care of yourself. Adam, thank you again, my friend, and we'll see you soon, buddy.
All right. See you later, Jordan.